everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on freedomreport.ca. Tonight, we're going to be talking about killing corporate debt. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. And we're going to be talking to a combination of our Canadian audience and, of course, our American audience. I get a lot of Americans saying, hey, dude, like, can you do some America stuff too? No problem. Here we are talking about getting rid of debt in both Canada and the United States. All right. So I want to first off cover, why is it important to have a corporation, especially in our modern world today? All right. Many of you probably have heard the term person in Black's Law Dictionary. This is England. This is Canada. This is the United States. Person doesn't mean human being. It doesn't mean you and me. What it means is a numbered entity designed or born specifically to pay tax at some point in the future. So if we all remember, before the women's suffrage movement, women were not designated as persons in the law. Now, the feminist movement, unfortunately, has bastardized that term. What they'll tell you is that means that women were not dedicated human beings or people. That's not it. The term person means corporation. Literally, it means corporation. So how do you create a corporation? Well, when a mommy and daddy love each other very much and do things, you know that you can give birth to one. That's what the 9-digit social insurance number is in Canada, and also what the social security number is in the United States. You are a person there to pay tax to the system. But if you register a corporation, you're also purchasing a person, a corporation. And that corporation in Canada has a 9-digit number, just like the social insurance number. It's referred to as a business number. In the United States, I don't know what the actual numbering system is called, but it's a new person that's created for the purposes of collecting tax and then remitting it to the government. So for the ladies out there who are wondering why they're struggling so much, well, it's because you're considered persons under the law. I think women should actually want to not be persons under the law anymore. And that way, you ladies will never have to pay tax again. You kind of got hosed on that. I'm just going to go right out and say it. Since we are talking about money here, I know that a lot of single mothers are out there on TikTok, especially complaining about the fact that they can't afford their tax bills, they can't afford rent and so on. It's because you're persons under the law and you're paying tax. In most cases, you're losing minimum 18% of your earnings, up to about 48% of your earnings. And if you're trying to raise a couple of kids on your own, you know how difficult that is. If you were not considered persons under law, you would not pay any of that income tax and keep every single penny that you want to keep. But that's where the corporation comes in, everybody. So if you want to stick around for the next 52 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about keeping all of your money and all of your earnings and everything out of your own personal name and putting it into a corporation, which is still considered a person under the law, and why it's so important to do so. In Canada, and I'm pretty sure the Americans have the same thing, there is something called the sole proprietorship. You decide that you want to do some business on your own, maybe a part-time baking business, maybe a full-time manufacturing business, maybe t-shirt painting or stenciling, maybe wall painting, whatever it might be. A lot of people will shy away from the price of getting a corporation done, depending on who you talk to. Could be as low as $1,200, could be as high as $2,500, but a lot of people don't want to pay that initial amount of money. And also in Canada, it used to be that if you had a business phone line, instead of paying $40-something for a personal phone line, you'd have to pay almost double the price to have a business phone line. And Bell's theory was, well, there's more benefit to you having a business phone than a personal phone. No, not necessarily true if you only make a couple of calls a day. So a lot of people were starting to move their businesses back into their homes in Canada and just getting personal lines and using them as business phone numbers. And then, of course, Bell caught on to that. Bell Canada caught on to that and would not let you have a Yellow Pages ad unless you converted that phone number to a business line, paid them $350 to do it, and then paid a monthly fee on your phone bill to be in the Yellow Pages. Remember those books that thick? The ones that cops used to beat you with because they don't leave bruises? Those. Well, Everyone can be on a cell phone now. You can get a business cell phone plan here in Panama, for example, for $28 US a month, unlimited talk, text, and data. In Canada, depending on the carrier, you can do the same thing for about $60 a month. Your business line can be a cell phone that you can port to any company. Cool. And yellow pages don't really exist anymore, except for their crappy website. Great. If you're really, really, really good at social media, you don't need to be in the phone book. Awesome. Good for you. But the proprietorship is, in Canada especially, it's just you declaring income, making income and declaring income under your own social insurance number. If you're foolish enough to get what's called the goods and services tax number, which is the federal 5% tax in Canada, any tax you collect, you're personally on the hook for in case you lose it or you spend it, which many people do. So it becomes incredibly difficult to move your money that you've collected in the way of GST away from your own personal name. The government wants their cuts, so they're going to give you a very difficult time. I would say probably easily 30% of my client base that comes to me with personal income tax debt are coming to me as a sole proprietor. And you can't do that. You cannot have a sole proprietorship. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of people that come to me with that issue, is bankruptcy tends to be the only solution. And bankruptcy is great, but if you're going to go bankrupt, try your best not to. There's other tricks that we can pull. Not making deals. We don't make deals. There's other tricks to pull where you don't actually pay the money. But bankruptcy, you want to go hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt before you consider a bankruptcy. You could even get your friends to pull debt on your own name before you go bankrupt. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of tricks to pull there. But the proprietorship, recently, I can't really discuss it yet because I still have a legal opinion being presented to me shortly on it. But recently, we've discovered a couple of ways to start moving personal debt into corporations and then refiling corporations to the CRA. I will have more information on that one soon. I didn't come here to talk about moving personal debt, but I did come here to tell you about the importance of having a corporation to keep debt away from you. Now, let's say, for example, you do decide you want to run a business and you don't want to go the route of the sole proprietorship, which please God, don't ever do. You register a corporation, and it's going to be a matter of which state and or province you feel is going to be the best one to do so. In Canada, there are only two places I recommend you open a corporation. Number one is the province of Ontario, which houses Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, and Windsor, four really big cities. Why? Because that province is a mess. Governmentally speaking, it's a complete and total mess. They are never going to fix anything in there. The court system is completely screwed up. The CRA offices, the Canada Revenue Agency offices in that province are also a complete mess. They have a whole ton of diversity hires who don't speak English, so it's quite easy to defeat them. But there's no real fiscal advantage to it. Aside from being able to open and close corporations at your leisure in Ontario, there are no real provincially chartered banks that you can deal with. Whereas if we move over to the province of Alberta in Canada, it's kind of the wild, wild west in Alberta. And even though the population is only 4.5 million people there, there's still going to be another million showing up shortly, which means there'll be just enough disarray in the province of Alberta to register corporations there and really run them any particular way that you want. There are also provincially chartered banks in Alberta, and I happen to deal with a very good one named Bow Valley Financial. Now, if anybody wants to open up a corporation and have your money completely protected from the federal government, then we have to put you into an account in Bow Valley. Yes, this is something I've been working very hard on with Bow Valley. And now what we'll do is we're going to get you a numbered corporation opened up in the province of Alberta and open up a corporate account for you there. And if you owe money to the CRA, guess what? They can't take it from you. It's amazing when you have a provincially chartered bank in Canada and you're not counting on the charter from the federal government. You don't have to do a damn thing that any of the federal agencies within the country tell you to do. So if anybody out there wants to now protect their money and not move it here to Panama, but leave it in Canada, you got to get a hold of me right here at kevinjjohnston.com. Could I get someone to put my website address, please, down below here in TikTok, and same thing on Kick. Appreciate that. Get a hold of me, and we're going to get your money moved into the province of Alberta if you do decide to keep it in Canada. This is the only place so far that I trust. I've gone through a lot of conversations with a lot of provincially chartered banks. And one of the biggest issues that we've got with all of these institutions is customer service sucks. It's brutal. Customer service is non-existent in most Canadian institutions. Canada's always had this problem. Even Justin Trudeau's father, when he was prime minister back in the 60s and 70s, said it himself. Canadians don't know anything about customer service. It's a very difficult place to get done what you need to do. So when we are wanting to hide money or protect your money, please always register a corporation in Canada. Come to me for it. I'll explain the whole ins and outs. Now, why would we do this? Well, the corporation is now a brand new entity that the Canada Revenue Agency or any of the tax offices do not know about. They don't know about it because you haven't told them yet. The Canada Revenue Agency is not the IRS. They're actually very stupid. They don't have any policing powers at all. They have no authority over your life whatsoever. They have no capacity to do anything to you at all, aside from put liens on your house, which I can get rid of in about 90 days or less, and tell the bank to give your money to them, which federally chartered banks will do, but Bow Valley will not do in Alberta. And the banks actually are not legally obligated to do so. They just choose to do so. So if the banks give your money to the Canada Revenue Agency, sue the bank and file criminal charges against the bank manager for doing so. I'm telling you, it absolutely works, right? But the corporation, if you don't tell the Canada Revenue Agency that you have a corporation, if you simply keep your mouth absolutely closed about the fact that you've registered one and what you do for a living, if you don't file tax returns, they don't know that your corporation exists. They truly don't. Now, this is where I come in. This is where you absolutely need to get a hold of me so that I can direct you in the correctest possible way to run your brand new corporation in Canada so that you never pay taxes again in your life. And you can use your corporate bank account to pay all of your personal bills. Why is that? Because when you hire me, I'm the guy that studied tax law for 40 years in Canada. And I can tell you this, that if they decide to audit you, you just call me and I get rid of the audit. I will call the auditor officer up and I'll just let them know, hi, my name is Kevin J. Johnston. I represent my client and we are going to respectfully decline your audit. We will do the audit for you, but I'm going to give you 30 days to give us a list of what you want us to look for, and we will make sure that we present that when we submit our audit to you. And then we issue a no trespassing notice to them, a sign that they get faxed and mailed, a sign that goes on your front door, banning them from your property, banning them from talking to any member of your staff, banning them from your church, your school, your kids' school, your everything. All right? Everything. Everywhere you go, your gymnasium. Doesn't matter. The hockey arena where your kids play. You can ban people from anywhere you want. And if they show up, call 911. Auditors have absolutely no authority in Canada so long as you tell them we're not cooperating. And that is why you should never talk to the CRA on your own. You can hire a tax lawyer for $25,000, or you can hire me for $500, not $500,000, $500. You can bring me on as your legal representative, and I stay on as your representative until the auditor backs down completely. And that's exactly what we want to do. And then we go ahead and redo your taxes our way, not their way, and submit them. And if they have a problem with that, in Canada, the absolute worst that they can do, in Canada is assess you. Now, I don't know about personal taxes in the United States. The only thing that I have studied in the United States is corporate tax law, not personal. So if you are in the United States and you're watching this show, please talk to a professional there. But in Canada, and Greg, just get a hold of me on my personal website, please, which is my name, kevinjjohnston.me. Hit the contact page, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can, typically 24 hours. With the auditors, they will pull some sneaky stuff, but their handbook, there actually is an auditor's handbook, believe it or not. Now, chapter 10 is my favorite chapter in that book, in where it tells the auditors, if you go to audit somebody and the owner doesn't cooperate, then go and threaten the spouse. It actually says that in the book. Go threaten the spouse. If the spouse says no, threaten the kids. If the kids say no, go threaten the staff. If the staff say no, go threaten the suppliers or the customers. If they all say no, then you consider the situation hostile, and you have to then forward it to a team leader. I mean, I've had people, some of my clients, it's actually quite funny, where they've just lost their minds, and it's just this long strings of profanity screaming at the top of their lungs at auditors who showed up at their places of business. And the auditors are afraid because they're all cowards. They're not tough. They are cowards. And they'll get in their car and they'll drive away and they'll pull around the corner and they'll make a phone call to their team leader saying, the person yelled at us and I'm afraid and he's hostile. So you can get rid of auditors that way, but the legal ramifications could be that they call the police on you and say that you threaten them. So if you're ever talking to the CRA, if they ever show up at your door, which is extremely rare, you do the same thing you do with a cop. Take out your phone and film everything they say. Now, you're absolutely allowed to point your finger at them. Don't put it in their face. Point your finger and like, get your phone here and get the finger in front so your phone picks up your finger, scolding them like this. You can be childish and scold them. You can call them names. You can tell them their shoelaces untied. You can, whatever you want to say. But you still must tell them there will be no audit. Get off my property now. You have to be that forceful. And then please do get a hold of me, because I'm going to send out all of the legal documentation that they need to understand that they have been banned from the property and communicating with you and your company. That's how we deal with the CRA. And if it's a corporation, it's very easy to do. It's incredibly easy to do. Now, I'll go a bit further here with your corporations. If the corporation owes a vast amount of taxes, what you can do is contact me. Oh, inheritance tax, Rocket? Good question. Ask that more towards the end of the show. Ask me that in about 30 minutes, okay? And we'll take questions and answers at the end here. When they contact you, when you've got your corporation and you owe taxes, for example, once your tax bill gets to be a bit too high, what you can do is give me a call. And then we're going to utilize your corporate keys and we're going to remove you as the director of the corporation. Because the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, and the Americans and the IRS as well, they'll try to state that the director is responsible for any all debts that come after the closure of the company. But they have to prove that. They can assess it, but an assessment is merely a guess. And when they guess, we issue a notice of objection immediately, and we demand an appeal date in the court, in tax court. Okay, that's what we do. But we still want to get your name off of the corporation later on as the director so that we can absolutely take away any and all of your liability on that corporation. And then when you have what we'll say massive amounts of debts that you simply cannot afford to pay ever, this is where you really got to pay attention to what I'm about to say here. Please, under no circumstances, declare corporate bankruptcy in Canada. Do not do it. In the United States, completely different animal. You can get away with it all in the United States. It takes about 3 years to go through it all. But in Canada, if you're going to declare corporate bankruptcy, the odds of being fully discharged from all of your debt is just about zero, right? Most of it, but not all. If you're going to go bankrupt with a corporation in Canada, unfortunately, you have to hire a lawyer. Them's the rules of the courts. I hate the courts in Canada, but they have these ridiculous rules, and that's exactly what you're going to have to do. Right off the hop, every bankruptcy lawyer I've ever spoken to charges $25,000 right off the bat. Then magically, that $25,000 will become 40. And then magically, it'll become 50. And the lawyer never breaks down how they are burning through your money. They take this huge retainer from you. And then what they'll do is supposedly they will contact your clients, let them know you're going bankrupt and have all your receivables come in that are outstanding. And they will contact your creditors. Now, this is where it gets really sick. My theory is this: if you're hiring a lawyer, that lawyer is supposed to put your mind at rest, telling you, I got this. Don't worry about it. You're not going to pay any more money than what you're paying me now. That's it. That's what a lawyer should say, and then actually be able to do it. Well, just talked to a client of mine 5 days ago, and this lawyer that he went to get a corporate bankruptcy done by made my client get his tools assessed. My client had to pay $7,000 to have $21,000 worth of tools assessed at $21,000. And then the lawyer says, okay, well, you better cut me a check for 11 grand right now. Because when you go bankrupt in Canada, you're allowed to hold back $10,000 worth of tools of your trade. You know, for me, it would be microphones, phones, laptop, camera, lights, haircuts, whatever it might be. You're allowed to keep $10,000 worth of gear to continue making a living. And everything else over that, you've got to pay. Like, you're going bankrupt because you don't have any money, but you got to pay a lawyer $25,000. You got to pay an appraiser between $7,000 and $20,000. Then you got to pay any value that you have over $10,000 in tools. So to go bankrupt in Canada with a corporation, you're looking at $70,000. And you still won't have all of your debts erased. Why in the hell would you do this? So, coming now to the crux of this episode today, here is what I do. If your corporation is struggling financially, now this is both Canada and the United States. I have been working very hard on this concept. I have been studying this and reading case law on this. I have blown a lot of time. I got a lot of gray hairs going through all the legal nonsense I had to be able to find out if this could be done. So I'm going to go back a little bit now and explain my theory. Bindi, as for sole proprietors, ask your questions towards the end of the show, please. Going back now, I remember a friend of mine, he foolishly racked up his wife's credit card to about 40 grand in debt. But the credit card company realized that they weren't going to pay the card, so they just wrote the debt off. So this debt ended up with interest and all that being 50 grand, $50,000. And in year number 6, coming into year 7, at the end of year 6, beginning of year 7, credit card companies that have written off their debt, it's gone. It goes away. So what the credit card companies will do is they will sell this debt that they were unable to collect for between 1 and 10 cents on the dollar. So there are third-party debt purchasing agencies that will buy a $50,000 debt for $500 and then sue the person whose credit card debt that was and try to win $50,000 off them. All right. Now, the only time that they sue anybody is when the person who held that credit card owns a house. If you own property, that's when they sue you. If you don't own property, they won't try to collect on it because they know that they can't. So I got into negotiations with this company that brought a lawyer with them, and they had sued my friend in small claims. And I had explained to the judge, who wasn't really all that smart, I must admit, that they've sued for this debt. They claim that the debt is now 8 years old. You only have 2 years to sue for something. And they've admitted in their own defense, or their own statement of claim here, that they purchased this debt. So the only thing that I could suggest here is that we either pay them their original amount and walk away from this, or we go through a trial. So we ended up going to trial. And guess what happened? They didn't show up because they knew that the law was not on their side. But he and his lovely wife had to take a day off work. They had to pay my time and pay for the defense and just the stress and the headache of all that debt being brought back. This is exactly what will happen with the Canada Revenue Agency and the IRS if you bankrupt your corporation. As the director, they will do their very best to make sure the bankruptcy does not go through. So in Canada, why would you spend $70,000 to go bankrupt when you still owe the money? So you're paying 70 grand for the privilege of paying more money on top of that. Okay, here's what I've invented. If you have a corporation in Canada or the United States, in Canada, you have Canada Revenue Agency debt, you have payroll debt, you have GST debt, you've got CEBA loan debt, repayable grant debt, you have credit card debt corporate, you have bank loan debt corporate, you have leases that, I don't know, on equipment that doesn't even work anymore. You have all the above. Those are all liabilities. I buy that corporation from you. And the same thing with the states. You could have credit card debt. You could have IRS debt. You could have local state tax debt. You could have all kinds, creditor debt, all of it. I will buy your corporations from you. I'll take them away. In the deal, it's called a share sale in Canada. It's called a stock sale in the United States, where I'm buying all your shares in Canada and all your stock in the United States. We go through what's called a due diligence report. My lawyer is going to check out and see in Canada, do you have a bankruptcy claim? Do you have any litigation against you? Do you have any Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigations against you? Does the corporation hold any property? If the answer is no to all of those, congratulations. I can buy your corporation from you that day and take away all of your debt. All gone. In the United States, the due diligence report is going to pull up, again, same thing. Do you have any litigation against you in any of the 50 states? Do you have any open FBI investigations on you? Do you have any property? Do you have any outstanding fines that are punishable by prison time? These are all the things that we're looking for in the United States. If all of those answers are no, I buy your corporation from you. So we will then sit down and we will work out absolutely every single solitary you have to the penny. And you give me your own due diligence report, which is you showing me every debt that you've got. Doesn't matter who it is. You got to be honest with me on this particular part of it, because if you are not being honest because you're embarrassed or otherwise, then you might skip something. You might not actually transfer one of your debts to me. And then on that particular day, let's say you owe $500,000 combined on everything on your corporation. You're going to buy back your assets from me for 10% of the value of your entire debt, which would be, in this case, $50,000. But you get your assets back, you keep all of your cash, and you walk completely away from your debt. You get to start over in a new numbered corporation from scratch. Ta-da. And then when I own that corporation in Canada, I am most likely going to turn around and sell that thing to another company who's looking for debt for write-off. In the United States, I can't do that. I can't sell it. So I have to, at that point, cannibalize what's left of it. I also send letters out in Canada to the CRA and to the IRS in the United States, congratulating myself on being the new director, CEO, CFO, and owner of the entire corporation, and any and all paperwork and demands for payment must be directed to me. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. What I do is not easy because it comes with a very hefty price tag. And the very hefty price tag is that the Canadian government and the American government are going to ride me as much as they possibly can because they want to get their hands on the payment now of these indebted corporations that I have purchased. And, well, you know me and how I'm going to react to that. I'm going to throw every piece of legalese I possibly can at them. And eventually it will stop, probably about 2-3 years down the road. So it's a lot of work. When I take this debt on from you, you get to start over, but the paperwork just begins for me. That's okay. This is what I've signed up for. And there's no way for me to get around that paperwork. But that is something that I have chosen to do with my life, is to help the little guy and the medium-sized guy, and even sometimes the big guy, get away from all of their tax debts. We got their Liberals, Gray. Kevin, I owe CRA more than I can ever pay them. HST and income tax. What should I do? Get a hold of me. Go to my website, get a hold of me, book yourself a consultation. I want to hear your story and form a strategy. And Kent here, Maybe Kent, if you want to tell people if I'm good or not at what I do, anything you want to say, of course, is appreciated. Kent here runs the absolute #1 snow removal and landscaping company in the province of Ontario, by the way. And I can attest to that. He does a lot of work for people I care about deeply. Amazing guy. There we go. So, and that's the other thing too. Yes, Kent and I do speak all the time, mainly because customer service is key. If you're hiring me and you have questions, you give me a phone call. You're either going to talk to me or one of my assistants, but I am eventually going to just call you back within 24 hours and get into what it is that we need to address. Okay. I owe $10,000 in CERB and haven't paid my taxes in 4 years. Manny, get a hold of me. CERB debt is an easy one to get rid of. No, I shouldn't say easy. It's time consuming, but there is a legal way to get rid of it, and it works 100% of the time. Okay. There we go. All right. So if you are carrying any particular type of corporate debt, I want it. Sell it to me. It's mine. I want all of you to register new numbered corporations. If you are in Canada, I will get that done for you. We can get it done within 72 hours. If you're in the United States, we can probably get it done in about 5 hours. That's the difference between Canada and the United States. I don't know, like everything in Canada is slow. Everything. Oh, and when I say 72 hours, that's about the best we can do, because the Canadian government, all branches of it, just sucks at what they do. But the United States is all about making money now. That's why you can register corporations in the United States in about 4 or 5 hours. I think our record is 90 minutes. Just and it's all done. So God bless America for that. Now, with the corporations that you're registering, everyone, please immediately get yourselves a bank account at a bank that you have not done business with before, or at least not in the last 5 years. And after all that's said and done, get a hold of me and we're going to remove your name as the director of that corporation, because we never want the CRA or the IRS coming at you for anything. Over here in Kick, I'm being asked, what about the ATO? For those who don't know, that is the Australian Tax Office. I've done no research into that so far. I got to be honest with you, pal. So if you're asking me about how Australia works tax-wise, I can tell you this. The ATO, they're out of their minds. They're as bad as the IRS, except I think a little bit crazier, if you want the truth. I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure, because most tax systems in the Western world are based off the old British tax system. It might be similar. It might be. I'm going to have to get myself some kind of a contact down there in the way of a tax lawyer or a CPA to figure that out. Australia is not really on my radar right now, but maybe one day. All right. Consumer Relations told me never to pay a collection agency. Is that true? That's correct, Denise. Never pay anything to a collection agency ever, because they never take it off your credit report. It stays there for 7 years, no matter what. What you've got to do with the collection agency is you have to make a demand. You give them 15 days to reply to you to prove to you that the debt is actually yours. You want to see the contract that you signed. And you tell them that if anything is on your credit score from that, if they are unable to prove that debt, that you'll be suing them and the director and the officer, the collection officer, directly, completely within your rights to do so. Collection agents, especially in Canada, have no authority of any kind. They're just useless human beings that bother people for a living. That's all that they do. So you always want to bypass the collection agency. If you have a collection agency giving you a tough time, just hire me. I'll represent you in that. And then they have no choice but to deal with me directly and send me evidence of the debt, which they never do. Not ever once. I've been doing anti-collection work off and on for about 20 years. And never once has a single solitary collection agency ever proved to me or any of my clients that there was a debt. They don't have the originals at all. Most times the creditor doesn't have the originals either. This is something that we will be counting on later on. If you ever decide you want to sue the creditor, you could owe someone money and still sue them. You know that, right? Because they're pestering you. They're bothering you. They are going to have to show that you signed the contract for that particular service. All right. Now, how does one get around that in Canada? have an alias. It's legal to have an alias in Canada. So whenever you're signing up for something, like let's say you're renting a place. So you need internet and you need electricity and water and gas and whatever else. Never use your real name. Get an alternate phone number, download Text Now, go to Text Now, download that, get a separate phone number, use that phone number for everything you do, and never use your real name when you're signing up for these bills. Not that I'm trying to convince you to walk away from your bills, but if life gets tough, the phone company, the cable company, the internet company, whomever, you can walk away from those bills in a hurry if it goes to a fake name, to a fake phone number that you can then just erase and get another one. Text Now is pretty cool. You can get a phone number for free in your state or province. And if you keep using it, you're fine. If you stop using it for 21 days or more, the number disappears. It goes back into rotation. Pretty cool, huh? So with Text Now, I pay them something like $60 a year, and I get to use the same phone number. I've had the same phone number on. Thanks, Johnny, or Dondra. Thank you for the heart. I love that. Thank you. I've been using the same number now for at least 4 years that I can think of. I think it was 2020 when I got a Text Now phone number. There's a bunch of other ones out there. There's another one where you watch ads, and for every commercial that you watch, it gives you 10 minutes of phone time. There's all kinds of stuff out there like that. So from here on in, don't use your real name when you're signing up for bills, especially on a rental property, even if it's a house you own. All you have to do is just state that you're renting. And my name is John Smith, Elmer Fudd, Clark Kent, Clark Gable. It doesn't matter what it is. Dean Cain. You can pick any name that you want. But please stop using your real name. Never use real identification, by the way. Now, I'm not the first. I'm not going to sit there and tell you to break the law. But if they ever ask for identification, they just get a fake employment letter. Go to ChatGPT and get a fake employment letter written up or something. Stop giving anybody your real name. We live in very weird times. This is not the 1970s where you could give your name and address and everything would be fine. Everyone's looking to steal from you. Everybody wants you to buy something. Everybody wants to steal your identification, your identity. Stop using your real name. Stefan, how do I deal with CERB? Hire me and it goes away. I issue all the legal letters that need to be issued to them, and we challenge them to prove that there is a debt, which they will never do because it's just a mandate they've been given by Justin Trudeau to collect as much as they possibly can. And a mandate is not legal when you're being told phone people and lie and get money from them. All right. If you're going to move out of Canada, there's a really good question there. If you're going to move out of Canada, how do you take your money with you? Well, call me. I'll get your bank account opened up in Panama. You can get Wise, W-I-S-E, wise.com, put all your money into that account and just carry your Wise card with you over the border if you like. You can get a Square.com account. You can actually have a Square.com MasterCard and use your card to just go everywhere. Stripe's another good one. PayPal reports to the Canada Revenue Agency, but PayPal does not report your balance. They just report that you have an account. So the CRA will not be able to take your PayPal balance from you, but I don't deal with companies at all that report to the CRA. So Dondra, if you need help, get a hold of me on my website. I'll tell you exactly how you get your money and your wealth out of Canada. All right. So for anybody out there who is looking to get rid of corporate debt, please get a hold of me. This system that I have created took a long time to create, but it's totally worth it. This year alone, I have now, as of today, I have bought my 40th corporation this year alone. Really nice guy, just got into debt, because the Canadian government shut his business down during the fake pandemic, all that nonsense. And he couldn't keep the doors open. And they just kept hitting him with penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. It got to the point where the Canada Revenue Agency was charging him 50% interest on his debt. You can't come back from that. There's no way to come back from that. So he sold me his corporation. I'm not going to give you names and details. I'm just going to say that congratulations to him and to me. That's the 40th corporation I bought this year. So that's 40 corporations that the CRA is not going to get any tax dollars from whatsoever. Now, here's where it gets really cool for all of you. Because let's say you do not have a corporation that's in debt, but you know someone who does. Best friend, best lover, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, uncle, cousin, mom, dad, grandma, great-grandma, grandpa, neighbor's dog. It doesn't matter. If you know somebody who has corporate debt and you bring them to me as a client, you get 50% of the entire profit margin. 50%. The minimum you're going to get on that is $1,800. The minimum. The maximum, there's no limit. Because if somebody has $10 million in debt, they're going to be paying me $1 million to take that debt away from them. And you're going to get 500 grand minus all my legal expenses, probably something like 492,000. All right. Realistically, the vast majority of my clients are suffering with about $250,000 of debt. That's a $25,000 payout minus legal fees. You're going to get half of about 18 grand, 9 grand. Could you imagine that? What if you just jumped on the phone, everybody, and started calling corporations and bringing them to me? How about calling accounting companies, introducing yourself and saying, if you have any corporations or your clients have corporate debt, we want it. And then we can pay out the accounting company as well. Everyone gets a little bit of the action. In this particular deal, because I'm not going to say, hey, if you want to do this for a living with me, well, you got to buy my book and you got to buy a monthly membership. That's Amway stuff, man. I hate that stuff. No, there is absolutely nothing I'm going to ask for from you. I'm going to train you in how to do it. And then it's up to you. Just go do it. I think I told you this happened earlier this year. Single mother, young lady, she's not even 30 years old yet. She's brought 4 corporations to me so far. This gal's made 80 grand, $80,000 just by making phone calls, right? And it's not even October yet. So she still has a bit more time to go. Robin, you're saying I'm skipping steps? Not really. I'm not going to give all the secrets. There are certain things that, have to be proprietary. What I'm telling you, though, is that I buy corporations in debt and I pay you for finding those corporations for me. There you are. So if anyone has any idea in their head that they just want to start making money, there's no jobs. Like Canada's done, except for Kent here. Kent's hiring. So if you are a good snow removal guy or a good bobcat operator, whatnot, get a hold of Kent. He's hiring. That's in Kincardine, Ontario. But aside from Kent, who's hyper successful and hiring a lot, there's no jobs out there. There just aren't. So, but there are tax debts and there are corporations failing and there are people all over Canada and the United States completely and totally suffering. So bring them to me as a client and you're going to get 50% of whatever the entire profit margin is. And that includes if you were to bring personal taxes to me. If a friend of yours just needs their personal taxes done, you're going to get half of the profit margin on that bill. That is how we do things here. I have opened up the floodgates now for everyone to make a piece of the pie. I'm not a greedy man. I'm content to make a little bit of money off of 10,000 people instead of everything off of one guy. It's just not how I do things. I'd like as many people out there as possible to make as much money as possible. That's what life is all about, guys. I mean, everyone says, I hate capitalism, man. No, I actually like it. I'll tell you why. Because every other governmental system that's ever been tried sucks. Socialism sucks. Communism sucks. Despotism sucks. Or sorry, despotism, I think it's called. That sucks. Raw dictatorships, that never worked. We had matriarchies and patriarchies, true ones. They didn't work. Chivalry didn't work. All these systems of government have failed absolutely immensely. Capitalism is only failing right now because we have a left-wing communist contingent out there bent on breaking it down. But during its peak, 1970s, 1980s, United States and Canada, were absolutely unbelievable. There was money on every single street corner. Back then I was DJing for $400 a night plus tips. And I was doing that 4 nights a week. Plus I had a grocery store job that paid $16.50 an hour. And this is like 1988, 89. Movies were only $3-4 back then. Gas was 40 cents a liter. So imagine just how much money all of us had in our pockets back then. I remember entrees at restaurants were only $5 back then. I mean, that's here in Panama now. But imagine in Toronto going to a restaurant called Lime Ricky's. Remember them? And paying $5 for a piece of steak and fries and some salad with a drink. Yeah. So it used to be that you'd only have to work for 22 minutes at your job to be able to have a meal in a restaurant. That was high quality. Well, those days are gone, everybody, unfortunately. So I'd like you all to consider that it's time to make a shift in what you do. If you really want to be involved with me, get a hold of me on my website. I offer training now every single week for those who want to be able to sell taxation services to the outside world. And no, you don't pay me for the course. I give it to you. You don't pay me a membership fee. You don't have to buy hand cream every month to keep your account open. It's ridiculous. Like Melaleuca, Amway, Quickstar, Isogenics, all those guys. I don't do any of that. Nothing at all. Mrs. Lobster says $5 will not even get you water. Well, in Skydome or Madison Square Garden, that's absolutely true. But 35 cents here in Panama gets you a cookie. And if you take the same 35 cents, it gets you a ride on a hyper sophisticated subway train. Cheers. Sometimes we just have to make a big shift in our lives and go where we can afford to be and go where our talents are wanted. And unfortunately, most talents are not wanted right now in Canada. All right. So if there's any questions, folks, go ahead and put them in the chat room. I'm checking Rumble right now. All right. Let's have a quick peek here. All righty. Can we talk about inheritance tax? Okay. In the United States, I know nothing about inheritance tax. I've done no research on that. But in Canada, I do. There's no such thing if you hire me. Let me explain that one. The CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, has no clue that you're dead. They don't know. It's not like they have some kind of magical wand or crystal ball that says, Jake Johnston is dead. Let's go get his money. Do you know how they know? You tell them. That's the only way the CRA knows your mom, dad, grandma's dead. Do you know when you should report your taxes on your dead loved ones? 3 years after death. Why are you in a hurry to tell the CRA someone's dead? It doesn't make any sense at all. When you inherit something in Canada, you can actually avoid probate by doing the smart thing, and that is hiring me and then having a contract, not a will. Forget wills, they're nonsense. An actual contract drafted between your siblings and your parents. And in this, what we do is we just get a numbered corporation up and we put their homes and their gold and their silver and their collector cars, whatever they've got, everything goes to numbered corporations. And instead of a will, we just give everybody shares with very stringent rules written into the bylaws of that corporation, stating that upon death of dad, the shares split equally amongst these people. That's it. It's not even a will. This way, you avoid probate. And the house is already in the numbered corporation. So it's not like you got to pay any taxes on the house. You don't have to hire a real estate agent and move it over to anything. You don't even have to hire a lawyer because the shares just revert to you. I can set all of this up. I despise wills. Probate is ridiculous. The only time that these plans don't work is when you've got a really stupid ignoramus in the family. Now, I did go through this a couple of weeks ago. I unfortunately couldn't take the client on because one of the siblings was just so out there, screaming at the top of their lungs at not just me, but their siblings and mom and dad who were still alive. Couldn't make it work. So I said, look, I can't talk to this person. I don't care that they want to say the F word 450 times. And I don't care that they want to discuss what they think my thing size is. That's irrelevant. But we're not making money doing this. we're not getting anything done with this person limping off. So there will be from time to time someone who's just unservable. But if the whole family can sit down and agree, then we can get all of that done in advance. Now, Justin Cringe, hey, I know who you are. How you doing, buddy? What if you have 2 or 3 houses? You contact me, okay? You don't tell anyone you got 2 or 3 houses. You do not ever report rental income on a second or third house. When you report rental income on a property, now the CRA is aware that you own it. Why would you do that? A lot of bad accountants out there will tell you, oh, you have to declare everything. If you win at the casino, you got to declare that. If you win a lottery ticket, you have to declare that. If you have an investment and you've earned interest, you have to declare it. These are really bad accountants, everybody. And if they're saying this stuff to you, they're not on your side. They are working for the Canada Revenue Agency or the IRS. Get rid of that guy and contact me instead. If you've got 2 or 3 houses, you keep your mouth closed. Let's say, though, you have 3 houses and you are married. You and your wife are in one house. Well, one of you just moves your name, your driver's license, to one of the other houses, and that's your primary residence. Or contact me for the third house. Let's say you sell the second and the third house. Well, one of you becomes the permanent resident of that, and the other one is going to be, quote unquote, traded for something different. Now, I can't really get into it because I'm down to my last 4 minutes here, but trust me when I say this, I'm the guy that you contact, because you're never going to pay capital gains on property if you hire me. There are ways around it that are completely legal. Capital gains tax, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It's almost like they don't want you to buy property anymore. And if you own properties, commercial properties inside of corporations, the only time you pay capital gains taxes is if you sell that property from outside of the corporation. But the whole idea of having a holding company holding that property is you don't sell the property. You just sell the piece of paper, the corporation, and the property goes with it. They don't have to do anything other than just sign the contract stating that they are now CFO, CEO, 100% shareholder, and director. And that's it. And you talk to me and my lawyer will do this for you. Cost less than 10 grand to get all that done. And then you never pay those taxes. Never pay those taxes. But let's say that you did have a property in a corporation and you've sold that property. If you want to sell me your corporation, I will take your debt away from you. All right. That's an easy one. So get a hold of me on that, please. What if the renter declares paying rent and has receipts? Merce, what you need to do if you're ever going to have a rental property is you make sure that the receipts for rent that you are writing is from, at very minimum, a proprietorship, which I don't recommend, or a corporation. You see, a corporation is allowed to be a property manager for a house, and the property management company writes all those invoices for rent. Ta-da! Now it's not a rental property. And get a hold of me and I'll fix all that up. A woman died, left her daughter. She died on a family member. They don't want it. Okay, I'm not quite sure I understood that question there. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, if anyone has any questions about this, do get a hold of me. We're down to our last, oh my Lord. God, an hour goes fast, doesn't it? We got about a minute to go. So I just wanted to let everyone know that don't do anything in sole proprietorships ever. Please make sure you have a corporation. You have to protect yourself. Mike, good question. Property taxes in Canada are the only taxes you have to pay. That's the only one I cannot get rid of. Municipal property taxes are impossible to get rid of. But income tax, GST, CEBA loan, bank loans, credit cards, I get rid of all that stuff. None of that stuff's important at all. It's the municipal ones that are impossible. So pay your property tax, but every other tax, contact me, and they're going away because I hate the CRA. All right. I've hated them since I was 13 years of age, and they stripped my parents of 1/3 of their entire net worth. I've had that long of a vendetta. Student loans, yes, we can get rid of student loans. That will be a completely separate show in the future. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. Thank you very much for being here. If you want to get yourself a consultation, simply get a hold of me at kevinjjohnston.com. That's kevinjjohnston.com. And I will see you next Wednesday at the same time. This is the Real Estate Money Show with me, Kevin J. Johnston. Have a great night.